Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jordan, and this is kind of a video or a live stream talking about the post-mortem of the Devtober jam. This is going to be used as an opportunity to talk about everything I learned, um, basically everything that went through with Project Escapee's development to this point. However, it is a demo. It is a very short demo because I honestly have been super busy. Um, you know, I'm gonna say honestly, there is a lot more that I wanted to do with it, with the time that I had, because I wanted to work on the quests a little bit. Maybe get an actual quest tab on the UI. And I'll get into that. So let's start at the beginning. I'm gonna put my Discord on Do Not Disturb because it's went off like twice in the last 5 minutes. So, I mean, literally, it started development, I would say, probably around February initially, because I wanted to work on it, but I also didn't work on it a lot, probably until this opportunity arose, and I'm exhausted, guys. But at this time, I had a lot of stuff going on in my life. I was going to school for game design, and I was like working on that stuff because school was important to me. So I didn't work on it a lot until, like I said, about this time is when I started trying to hammer out the details. I think I would have gotten a lot further than creating a game from scratch, starting with brand new source material. And all that, because that actually does take a fair amount of time, because I was researching different aspects of mythology. One of the bosses is from, I believe, Japanese or Chinese mythology. I don't remember. I'm so tired right now. I don't remember. But yeah, I wanted to incorporate different mythologies in the game, like different aspects of mythology and different. I don't know the proper word, but I wanted to go into Greek mythology. I wanted to go everywhere. You know, so like for me, my biggest goal was to get into using more events and switches, like using more switches and I almost want to say more JavaScript, but I didn't use JavaScript in the initial demo because the last time I tried to use JavaScript in MV, it didn't work too well. And I will usually create a JavaScript file for like plugins if I try to create any, which is still my major goal with this project. But what I have doesn't have any custom plugins or anything like that because I haven't had a lot of time to think and develop the games. During this time, as well, in the last few months, or like in the last 30 days, or last 27 days, it got super hectic. It got super busy. And I wish I'd had more time to work on it. But for a demo, it's not very long. I'd say it's about 10 to 15 minutes. At most, it is about 20 minutes at most, I would gander. Depends on how lucky you are with the random encounters. But I did learn about like researching, things and trying to pull from mythology and trying to learn more about it. Um, I'm trying to craft a believable villain, which is why Jesse took, or Jesse was the one, like in the game, it would make sense. So there, the story is based on you have to save the main character's best friend because I'm trying to think. I don't even remember right now because like I'm exhausted. But I'm gonna be honest though, like the biggest problem that I had was time, you know, and wanting to implement more, make the demo longer, like an extended demo, because I was just like, I'm so tired. There were times I was like, I can't work. So the biggest thing I learned about was doing research for the types of enemies that you'll face. I did a little bit of QA testing today as well, and people will be like, "Don't you do that every time?" Not to the extent that I'm doing it now. I'm actually writing down the bugs that I found and how to trigger them, and how I intend to fix them, or like when I fix them, how I fixed it. Um, So I'm learning a lot really about how to try and craft a believable villain. Make him seem like a threat to you and make him seem like a threat early. You know, Dave is using magic in this game because Dave is going to be a particular villain. In the next game that I'm planning on working on, it would be the origin story of how the main characters met. And I think a lot of what is in the game now, what is in Project Escapee or Ruins 3 or whatever I called it, it will be it will all make sense. And I'm going to be honest, I'm trying to create a cohesive timeline as well with this game. I'm learning on how I'm doing that. I've learned how to test switches in RPG Maker, and people say that's not hard because you can see if a switch has been activated. But there's no way to tell if a switch has been deactivated because RPG Maker events, the event manager only allows for multiple self switches to be active, but it does not allow for switches to be active. I'm learning how variables work in general, like how I can implement them into my game, because I have never used variables in an RPG Maker game before, even though that's like the basic thing you can do. Like that's something you can do. I'm learning how to really try and spruce up the level design in like the dungeons and stuff, because the dungeons, I like expansive dungeons in my RPGs, in the games that I've made in the past. And really, like, one thing that I will say is I would have honestly been down to stream the game, but I am not in it. I'm not in a streaming mood other than right now because I'm just talking. But honestly, like one of the biggest things that I'm learning about with RPG Maker is how it runs with the variables and how to effectively toggle switches. Because there are times I don't know what switch is on, so I just toggle a bunch of them off to make sure like certain switches are not active. I don't know if the self switches shut themselves off when the event is over. I doubt it. So effectively, to go through and make sure all the switches are off, whether they're self switches or other switches, I go through and I manually turn them off. I don't know if there is a streamlined way to do that, but now I'm learning how to use switches and variables for sure. And this wasn't even my first project idea. I was going to create a game in C# originally, and it was going to be a quiz game, but I'm like, I don't think people think of this much as a game more than an application. So I scrapped that idea pretty quick and just went with what I had, already in the backlog. So what's another thing I learned? I learned that debugging things can be very difficult. It's very time consuming. When you have to write down exactly how to replicate certain events, and my God, I don't write like a paragraph on how to do it, because in RPG Maker it can be as simple as get to the scene. When you get to the scene, just let it play out as normal. Because originally when I was QA testing, the demo was a lot longer. It was like going to be, I don't know how much longer, but it had a few more maps to it. And you would have gotten to a point where the demo actually ends, where it would have looped. And like the scene would have looped over and over again. So I was like, instead of just having to explain that what happened to get to the next part, we'll just end the demo here and we'll keep moving, because it's just going to be easier. Because I'm not going to have a lot of time with my schedule to actually work on it and then write a post-mortem on itch on Sunday. I'm not going to write one right now because I'm not thinking clearly. But I'll be honest, I learned a lot about the topics that I wanted to learn about. I didn't use JavaScript because I know that would have taken time to actually test. And if your JavaScript doesn't work, it's going to throw an error whenever you try to use it, because it'll say, this does not exist. So effectively, I think in the next iteration, I'm going to try and figure out how to use JavaScript to create a plugin that has a quest UI, but I don't know if I'd need to create my own UI for that, or if I would need to, or if I could just modify the UI that they have. Because like I was doing the same thing with RPG Maker MV, and it was like, it's going to be a lot harder to implement a quest system on my own. So with that being said, I think that's enough for a video today. So we'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.